Line up, and we're going to go right to my first guest, Ralph Kaelble. He's running for District Attorney in Tulare County. Ralph, thanks for coming in.
Thank you for having me.
We have a lot of interesting races all over the valley going on this year, a lot of District Attorney races, particularly in Fresno, Tulare, Kings County, a lot of assessor races. We're going to be talking to somebody from Kings County about that coming up here this afternoon, judicial races, and just a lot of activity. So anyway, thanks for coming on today, and tell us a little bit about yourself, and then we're going to go into the mechanics of the DA's office.
Okay. Well, my name is Ralph Kaelble. I'm running for Tulare County District Attorney. I have experience. I was a district attorney for 14 years. I now have my own law office downtown Visalia, and I'm running for the job of district attorney. I have a bachelor's in public administration, and I went to Loyola Law School, and I've been an attorney for about 15 years.
Very good. Currently, there's what, just two candidates in your race?
There is.
Okay. There's Mr. Ward, the incumbent, and then yourself. So.
Yes, he was appointed, so he's going to be called the appointed incumbent on the ballot.
Okay, very good. So let's go through a little bit about a lot of times voters, especially, they just kind of bump right across and they say, well, the district attorney, and they hear a little bit about the district attorney's office on the news, and that's about it. And everybody assumes that you're there to take care of the bad guys and prosecute. But kind of expound a little bit about how big of a job that really is, what the district attorney's office does, and you are officers of the state of California.
Right. Well, the district attorney's office, that's essentially what they do, is they prosecute the criminals that law enforcement brings us. They also have a civil division. And they have a civil division, and that they do certain cases where consumer fraud and real estate fraud and different things like that, where we can not only prosecute criminally, but we can also prosecute in the civil arena.
Mm-hmm. Okay. So at this juncture, what are you bringing to the table as far as your expertise, your experience, and why you feel you're the best candidate for the job?
Well, to be honest with you, Tim, I think I'm the best candidate for a lot of reasons, a variety of reasons. And, I'm not the only one that believes that. I've been endorsed by every single boots-on-the-ground law enforcement association that's endorsed in this race. I mean, that includes the Deputy Sheriff's Association, the Tulare County Probation Association, the Visalia Police Officers, Dinuba, Exeter, Lindsay, and Porterville. Even Kern Law Enforcement Association has endorsed my candidacy for DA. And I think one of the reasons for that is because I'm big on communication. I really believe in not only communicating with law enforcement and training law enforcement, but also within the office training and being open to the public. I give my cell phone number out. I give it out to everybody. I'll give it out to you on the show. Mm-hmm. I mean, my cell phone number is 679-8894, and I believe that when I work for the public, that's what I'm supposed to do. Is I'm supposed to be there to talk to people and explain to them what's going on.
Very good. And communication is the key. I ran into that a bit too when I was running in 2010. It's very important that people know that they're going to be able to talk to you, reach you if you're not at the office. Cell phone number, email, something, making yourself accessible. And your experience, before you went back into private practice, so you were a prosecutor.
I was a prosecutor.
14 years. Tell us a little bit about some of the adventures of your career there.
Well, I was a prosecutor in the Tulare County District Attorney's Office, and when you start, you prosecute misdemeanors, and I did a stint in welfare fraud. I pretty much worked in every single office and have prosecuted every kind of crimes. Some of the highlights, I would say, I prosecuted a double homicide in Visalia. And that was a very emotional case, but I had served as a child molest prosecutor prior to that, so I was good with working with children. And that's one of the reasons they gave me that case, is because, in particular, I had to put two young children on the stand to talk about how their father had killed their mother and their their mother-in-law.
Wow, yeah, that is most definitely the tough part of the job there. Mechanically in the office, I'm sure you have some changes that you'd like to implement.
Right. One of the biggest things that I believe in is not only, like I was talking about, communication with law enforcement, and I think that with all these agencies, in all their associations back in my candidacy, one of the things that shows you is that they don't believe that communication is really working. So I want to change that right off the bat. That's one of the first things we can do. And I have the experience, and I've shown that I will do that. I've done that before. What I did was I supervised in the Porterville division for 3 years in the district attorney's office, and I implemented a lot of changes regarding communication, because I look at it like this. I need to be there, available to the public, available to law enforcement, and sometimes we're wrong. Sometimes we may make a mistake on a case, and we need to fix that. And so I want law enforcement to take a vested interest in the cases and come talk to me whenever there's an issue.
Yeah, and that's part of the equation also is, as district attorney, you are the one who's ultimately going to be making the decisions on what goes to trial, right?
Right.
What's going to be pursued, because I'm not sure what the numbers are, but of everything of people that are arrested, there's a lot of things that just aren't filed, right? If there's insufficient evidence or all that other stuff.
Well, there's a lot of things that aren't filed. That's one thing. But then there's also a lot of things that are filed and then they dispose. So very few cases percentage-wise actually go to trial. But one of the things that I talk about and that people like about what I'm saying is I don't believe that it should be just about stats. My opponent talks about that he has a 94% conviction rate. But in reality, that's not an honest statistic, because the 94% conviction rate is not that he files and that's what he gets a conviction on. Mm-hmm. If you file an attempted murder on somebody that is just an overcharged case and you get a battery conviction, that's counted as a win to some people. And to me, that's not really a win if you just overcharge something. So it shouldn't be about politics or statistics. It's about justice, and it's about doing the right thing for the right reasons every day.
Yeah, the numbers always become deceiving.
Right.
All the time, as far as, and it's no different than like in my real estate business too. I mean, we can massage numbers all day long to make you feel good about what the hard numbers are.
Well, and my opponent, not to interrupt you, but my opponent recently said at a candidates forum when we were talking, he did admit that those numbers are not, they're not really accurate as to the cases that, based on what's filed and based on what you get the conviction on, that's not necessarily an accurate number.
Okay. We're now living to, I wasn't going to ask you this question, but I know that you were prepared for this one, is in this new day and age of AB 109, where we have the state sending inmates into local jails now, the revolving door issue that here in Fresno County, it's very dramatic. So as a district attorney, what kind of, with this new phenomenon now, with all these prisoners getting moved around and everything else, what is that doing? Because you still have to stay the course on prosecutions.
Right.
But is there things that you can do to kind of soften the blow? Because people are very concerned about their safety right now.
Right. No, and there are some things that we can do. First of all, whether you agree with the AB 109 or you don't agree with it, it's there, and we have to work within the parameters of that right now. So some of the things that you do is you make sure your staff is trained properly so they understand what cases are 109 eligible, what cases aren't. And there are certain cases where you don't want to make certain offers, because if you make that offer, there was a case when I was asking Visalia Police Officers Association for their endorsement, and they talked about someone who had stolen about 15 cars. And under AB 109, if you just steal a car, no matter how many stolen cars that you are charged with, we can never send you to prison. We can't send you to prison just for stealing cars. That's a local commitment. But the problem is this guy also had broken into a house. And when you break into a house, that takes you out of the AB 109 equation. Mm-hmm. So what the DA did in that case is he made an offer where you plead to something like 10 of the auto burgs or auto thefts, but then he dismissed the home theft. Well, the problem with that is now we have to keep him local. We can't send him to prison. Mm-hmm. But what the law does is if you, in that same scenario, if you make him plead to the house burg, then he's out of the AB 109 and you get to send him to prison, not just on that, but on everything. So you have to look at each case individually and decide, what it is that you want to do with this person and what can we do, and look at all the ramifications. Mm-hmm. And that's an important thing that you need to do. I'm not suggesting that deputy DA, purposely, screwed up. What I'm suggesting is just that was a training issue that they didn't realize that that's the ramification of dismissing that charge.
Okay, there's one thing I love about doing this show, Ralph. I learn something new every week, and just about with every guest. So under AB 109, car theft is doesn't send you to prison.
No,
you can
well,
just steal cars, make a career of it.
pretty much. But let me clarify one thing. It sends you to prison. It's just under AB 109. It's called local prison.
Yeah.
So essentially, you get a prison commitment, but you go spend it in the local jail.
Okay.
So in Fresno County, you'd spend it in Fresno County jail. You wouldn't actually go to a state prison facility.
Mm-hmm.
And the same thing in Tulare County. That's how it would work.
Wow. Okay. Wow, that's just amazing. Well, I'll tell you what, the lights are going to be flashing here pretty quick, so I'll let you kind of make your last pitch because election time is right around the corner.
Actually, absentee ballots are probably coming out today, maybe even tomorrow, somewhere right around there. They got mailed out on Monday. I believe I'm the best candidate for a job. I have the training, I have the education, and I have the experience. I've worked both sides. I've worked as a defense attorney, and I've worked as a prosecutor. Obviously, we have some issues in the Tulare County DA's office when 7 out of 7 law enforcement agencies or associations that have endorsed my candidacy for district attorney. And I ask for your vote on June 3rd, or if not before, if you could fill that absentee ballot out now, I would appreciate it.
Okay, very good, Ralph. Thanks for coming in today. Best of luck to you, and I know you've got to get off to your next event, and we'll be in touch.
I appreciate it.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
Thanks for coming on. Okay, folks, we're going to be right back after these messages.